Alrighty, welcome back, everyone. We just talked about the CFP, tried to break it down as best I can. I do think it's probably going to be a SEC and Big Ten party, if I'm being totally honest. Especially, the SEC has quite a few teams that still are very much in the conversation, and frankly, let's just be totally honest, that sticker on their helmet's going to help them just a little bit down the stretch. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how this all shakes out, and definitely will be quite the topsy-turvy road before we get there. But let's get into some upset alerts because I think there are a lot of top 10 teams that could possibly go down this week, could totally shake up this race and maybe knock a couple of teams out, maybe make it a little bit more digestible for us all. But let's go ahead and jump into this, and we'll start with the number one team in the country. Oregon is inviting Maryland into town. They're a 25-point favorite. So I understand. This sounds a little bit crazy, but I just think it's one of those spots. Overall, I think the rest of the season for Oregon is going to be really interesting to watch. They've been really able to keep their focus, to play all these games like they very much need them, play them with aggression, play them with intentionality. That can all fall apart in one day. It's not necessarily something that sticks with you the whole season. There is one of those games usually that a team sleepwalk just a little bit. Maybe you have a little bit more ability to do that in this game than others, but there's going to be one of those games where if they can't keep their focus for all four quarters, if they can't be totally locked in on this task and only this task and not get lost in, we're going to the CFP, we're going to the Big Ten Championship, we're going to win in our first year, all of that stuff that is surrounding this program right now, someone can sneak in and get one from you. And then for this one, Maryland's going to need turnovers. Let's just be totally honest with each other. Maryland's going to need a couple of big time plays. The pass defense is not nearly good enough to fully slow down this Oregon passing attack. But if they get a couple of mistakes, the door opens pretty wide. And then for Maryland, they're top 20 in the country in stopping the run. Maybe that's the path to victory. You fully stop Jordan James, you fully sell out against this run, and then maybe you have a couple of openings on the back end because Dylan Gabriel has to force the ball just a little bit more. Maybe you're just on full attack mode and you rush the passer a ton, you get after him a little bit, cause some havoc, and really just jump on this team. And then you have them looking up at the scoreboard in the middle part of the first quarter, end of the first quarter, they're down by 10 and they're wondering what happened. That's probably the way that Maryland's going to have to go about this. It's going to have to be a little bit of an ambush more than anything else, probably, and it's going to be really interesting to watch. I think this one, like a lot of these upsets that I talk about, probably way more about Oregon than it is about Maryland, if Maryland's going to be able to get this win. I do think Oregon's probably more than fine in this game, probably a 1 out of 5 on the upset meter, but definitely one that I would just keep a side eye on at the very least, because maybe Maryland can jump on him and confuse this Oregon team just enough to get a huge upset. Then you got the Michigan-Indiana game, and this is one where it's really just about mentality more than anything else. They're looking towards the 23rd. Let's just be totally honest. They understand that the 23rd is the moment for that program. It's the moment for the season, and it could be the moment that knocks them into or out of the CFP. Thing is, you got to handle a team real quick, and Michigan is a team that has not played great football this year by any means. Davis Warren is coming along. He's played good football in the last 2 weeks, has not turned over the ball, has had completed the ball very, very well, has done really nice things the last couple of weeks. Obviously, this offense is not explosive. It's not terrifying. It's not, going to score 50 points by any means. What they can do is slow this game down. What they can do is make this a little bit gross, make this a little bit mucky, and then maybe Indiana gets in their head, because the reality is Indiana does not beat Michigan. Just plain and simple. They do not beat Michigan. They haven't beat Michigan in a very long time. Obviously, two very, very different teams than they were a couple of years ago, even when they were last year. But the reality is, you're still going to look across the way and see that Block M. You're still going to look across the way and see that maize and blue, and you're going to have to figure out how to handle it. So maybe it's just one of those college football spots where Indiana's rolling right along. They're the better team on paper. They're the better team when you watch them, but they just can't handle that one moment that they very much need to. Michigan could definitely spoil some things here. Indiana's not a team that I'm going to bet against. I'll go 2 out of 5 on the upset meter here. Definitely one that you're going to want to keep your eye out on, but let's be totally honest. Indiana seems like a well-oiled machine right now, and I'm not going to go against the Hoosiers. So moving on to a Mississippi State-Tennessee game that might not jump off the page by any means, and frankly, I might just have a Mississippi State problem. I really like Michael Van Buren. I really like this team going forward. I think they have every ability to be very successful in 2025. Maybe I'm jumping the gun just a little bit here, but I think they're still looking for that big one. I think Jeff Lebby is looking for that win that kind of gets all the recruits' attention. It's something that pretty much every first-year coach has to go through, where you don't necessarily have to be perfect. You don't necessarily have to check all the boxes right away. You got to check one. And I think the one is get that big time win. Show everyone across America that you are a program that at the very least is heading in the right direction. So it's going to be an interesting battle. And then for Tennessee on the other side, you're going to Athens next week. You're going to the game that absolutely is more important than, I don't want to say anyone on the schedule, because obviously that Bama game is massive, but at the end of the day, it's a huge game, and it's one that you're going to have to be focused on just a little bit here. And although the Mississippi State pass defense is not necessarily great, Tennessee hasn't necessarily been hasn't necessarily been testing defenses, and they've just been absolutely incredible at stopping them. Tennessee's just been missing chances. They've just been missing open receivers. They've just been dropping balls. They've just been doing things that doesn't necessarily matter who's covering you or not. If you're going to miss the guy deep, you're going to miss the guy deep. So it's definitely something to watch in this game. Maybe Tennessee's not a team that it really matters how good your pass defense is one way or the other. If they're going to miss a guy, if they're going to overthrow a guy, they're probably going to overthrow him one way or the other. Maybe the opening will give them a little bit more confidence in that, but at the end of the day, you stop that down the field pass that a lot of teams have for Tennessee this year, you see what happens. They don't necessarily score a ton of points, and they got to gut out a lot of wins, and then maybe that's where Michael Van Buren and Mississippi State show up. But for Tennessee, they're going to lean on Dylan Sampson. There's no doubt about that. They've been doing it all year, and obviously it gives Tennessee some control in this world that they're going to find themselves in. But the reality is Mississippi State has the ability to limit the gap in this game. And frankly, if they're going to lean on Dylan Sampson the way they have the last couple of games, you've seen what it brings. A couple of missed kicks here and there in that Kentucky game. It gave Kentucky a shot to be in that game. It gave Kentucky a shot to possibly win that game. So maybe it is more about Tennessee than it is about Mississippi State. I think it's probably a 3 out of 5. I think there is an ability here for Mississippi State to go up to Knoxville, catch Tennessee sleeping just a little bit. Michael Van Buren has a huge game, and they go on to win. I'd be surprised, no doubt about that, but definitely something that I could see happening, no doubt. And then we got to talk about this game. I hate to do it to Miami fans, especially my guy Anthony, but at the end of the day, Miami is on upset alert this upcoming weekend. Pretty much everyone is, really, when they play Georgia Tech and they're ranked this high. For whatever reason, Brent Key has his guys ready to go. Whenever they play a team like this, they are ready to roll. They always play these teams tough, and they always play really, really strong. The thing is, they have a little bit of a quarterback situation as they head into this one. Haynes King is still day-to-day. I would expect him to go, but I don't know. It's definitely still something that is very much still up in the air. Aaron Philo could be making his first start for Georgia Tech. Maybe they go back to Zach Pyron. Going to be something to watch as you go into this one. And then for Miami, they're just in a spot where it's not necessarily a fantastic defense on the other side. The thing is, Miami, the big thing they found over the last couple of weeks that has started to limit some of the mistakes that have been made is they found the run game. The run game has given them a lot of control over these games. It's given them a lot of confidence in these games, and Georgia Tech is very good at stopping the run. So maybe it's one of those games where Miami can't do the thing that they've been able to do the last couple of weeks. It leads to Cam Ward forcing just a little bit more, and those mistakes creep back into the conversation. We've seen it happen before. Definitely something that could happen in this game, especially on the road. Going to be a very interesting game, and I think Miami's kind of in the Oregon position. We talked about it where it's all about treading water. It's all about winning games that you should win, that you are favored to win, that you have, I don't want to say no business losing, but absolutely are ones that you definitely should win. And it's one of those spots where it could get a little bit sketchy. I think Miami's going to win this game. I'm going to put it at a 3 out of 5 on the upset meter just because of all the variables going into it, but I think Miami comes in a little bit angry about what happened last year, and they probably get the win here. Then you got Washington, Penn State. I think this is a fascinating game that's going on in State College because overall, you have a Penn State team that is probably a little bit confused about who they are, about where they go from here, and about how they kind of fully regroup after the last week because it felt like the moment. I don't know if everyone else felt this way, but at least to me, it felt like the moment where a lot of this stuff around Penn State could change, where a lot of the conversation around Penn State and Ohio State could kind of shift to a little bit more of an even playing field, a little bit more in Penn State's direction. That did not happen, and you're going to have to regroup. You're going to have to get back up and see what happens the rest of the way, but you're facing a defense that is really good. Washington's pass defense is one of the best in the country. They turned Miller Moss over 3 times yesterday and actually forced a little bit of a change at quarterback over at USC that we'll talk about later in the week, but definitely going to be something to watch. And it's one of those things where if they can get a couple of turnovers from this Penn State offense, it could be just enough of an opening to win this game, because I don't think Penn State's going to light the scoreboard on fire. Now, the question is, can Washington stop Katron Allen and Nick Singleton? Because they're giving up about 150 yards per game on the ground, and definitely going to be the best rushing attack that they've faced since Michigan. So going to be something to watch, probably a better rushing attack than Michigan, frankly, with that offensive line. But it's going to be a relatively tough spot, and I think it really comes down to where's Drew Allar's head at. Does he have the ability to go into this game, play with full confidence, go in there against a really good pass defense and just kind of handle his emotions, handle the craziness, and go in there and get a win? I'm going to put a 4 out of 5 on the upset meter here. I think it's going to get a little bit interesting, and we'll probably break it down in a little bit more complete terms tomorrow, but definitely going to be one you're going to want to watch out for. And then finally, we got Army going on the road to North Texas, and this is one that it really just comes down to that quarterback position. I don't know what we're getting at that quarterback position this upcoming weekend. I think Bryson Daly should be back, but I don't know. It seems still very much up in the air, and they're kind of in a weird spot without him, because this offense has the ability to move the ball. No doubt about that. They have Kanye Udo. They have a lot of players that can help them on their way to gutting out this win. Thing is, you have an offense on the other side that is the very best in the country in pass yards per game. They're going to push the ball downfield. If they score 14 points in a hurry without Bryson Daly on the other sideline, does Army have the ability to get back in this game? Usually throughout the season, they've only faced 34 passes per game. They're about to face 45 passes per game on North Texas. That could cause some issues. That could cause a little bit of tired energy from this Army defense, and maybe this one gets to them just a little bit. Now, Army should be able to run the ball. That is the good news in this one. North Texas is outside the top 100 in run defense this year. They should be able to run the ball. They should be able to milk clock. Maybe it is just North Texas making a couple of big plays that keep this one close. I'm going to put a 5 out of 5 on this one. I think this is as dangerous as it gets this upcoming weekend, especially if you don't have Bryson Daly. And even if you do, you have an offense on the other side that can hurt you in a hurry, and maybe it's just too much for Army as they head into a huge one against Notre Dame here coming up. But a lot of games across the country, really, that could be upset alerts this upcoming weekend. I found a couple more this morning when I was looking through the schedule, so we'll break down those throughout the week, but definitely a couple in the top 10 that could go down this week and totally shake up the entire country and the entire race going forward. But let's take our last break here, and when we come back, we got to get into my top 15. I'll give you my teams that I think would be in the playoff. I'll probably start giving my playoff picture next week, so be on the lookout for that. But overall, I do think my 15 teams I feel good about them. I'll leave it at that for the time being. We'll talk about it right after this.